Letting Go, The Pathway to Surrender by David R. Hawkins. Video 3, Chapter 2, coming up right after this. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Yoel Presents YouTube channel. This is Yoel, so grateful to have you. And special thank you to those who have subscribed since my last video. If you have not yet subscribed, I'd be very grateful if you took a second to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, and that way you won't miss a future video from this series. This is the third of a series of chapter reviews and insights on David Hawkins' fantastic landmark book, Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender. And obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, but don't forget to hit that like button as well. Share this with anybody who you think could benefit from this series or any other of my videos, as well as you can feel free to leave feedback, any questions, and I'll do my best to address those. So if you're coming to this video first and you missed the other videos in this series, essentially what I'm doing is I'm actually reviewing each chapter of this book and then giving my notes and my synopsis on these chapters, as well as doing a brief summary at the end of each reading. The reason why I'm reading these chapters, as I've mentioned in my other videos, is not to sort of try and emulate Audible for you, but more because in other reviews that I've done, I felt that without having the full context of the book, it's much more difficult to get an understanding of any of the other insights or topics that I talk about when I'm discussing this book. Now, of course, if you already have the book, then you can read the chapter yourself, or you may have already done so. I also encourage you to get the book, but if you're watching this video and either you haven't had the time to get the book, or maybe you don't have the funds to get the book, or whatever the case may be, then this is a good way of understanding what the book is about by hearing it from the words of the author himself. But again, I do encourage you to go ahead and get that book, because this is not meant to be just a substitute for Audible. You can obviously get the Audible version of the book wherever you can download and subscribe to Audible. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into reading chapter 2. So this is video 3, because the book starts, well, it actually starts with a foreword, which I didn't read, but it does start in terms of Hawkins' own words. It starts with a preface. That was video 1. Video 2 is chapter 1, and now video 3 is chapter 2. Hope you don't find that too confusing. So this is from chapter 2, which is entitled The Mechanism of Letting Go. Once again, I want to remind you that, of course, I don't expect you to stand or sit and watch my pretty face the whole time reading. Of course, you can do that. You're welcome to. But also the intention as I read this is that you can go about whatever it is you're doing, whether you're working and have this in the background, you're doing chores around the house, maybe you're listening to this as you're exercising, whatever the case may be. So here we go. Chapter 2, The Mechanism of Letting Go. What is it? Letting go is like the sudden cessation of an inner pressure or the dropping of a weight. It is accompanied by a sudden feeling of relief and lightness, with an increased happiness and freedom. It is an actual mechanism of the mind, and everyone has experienced it on occasion. A good example is the following. You are in the midst of an intense argument. You are angry and upset when suddenly the whole thing strikes you as absurd and ridiculous. You start to laugh. The pressure is relieved. You come up from anger, fear, and feeling attacked to feeling suddenly free and happy. Think how great it would be if you could do that all the time, in any place and with any event. You could always feel free and happy and never be cornered by your feelings again. That's what this technique is all about. Letting go consciously and frequently at will. You are then in charge of how you feel, and you are no longer at the mercy of the world and your reactions to it. You are no longer the victim. This is employing the basic teaching of Buddha, which removes the pressure of involuntary reactivity. And I love the way that he talks about victimhood. That's work that I can tell you personally that I work on a lot, not looking at life as a victim. And he talks about that here a lot in the book as well. And this is a sort of a prelude to the fact that Hawkins will be talking about the idea of victimhood. We carry around with us a huge reservoir of accumulated negative feelings, attitudes, and beliefs. The accumulated pressure makes us miserable and is the basis of many of our illnesses and problems. We are resigned to it and explain it away as the human condition. Again, I talked about in the last video, the human predicament, another great author, Michael Singer, talks about. We seek to escape from it in a myriad of ways. The average human life is spent trying to avoid and run from the inner turmoil of fear and the threat of misery. Everyone's self-esteem is constantly threatened both from within and without. If we take a close look at human life, we see that it is essentially one long, elaborate struggle to escape our inner fears and expectations that have been projected upon the world. Interspersed are periods of celebration when we have momentarily escaped the inner fears, but the fears are still there waiting for us. We have become afraid of our inner feelings because they hold such a massive amount of negativity that we fear we would be overwhelmed by it if we were to take a deeper look. We have a fear of these feelings because we have no conscious mechanism by which to handle the feelings if we let them come up within ourselves. Because we are afraid to face them, they continue to accumulate, and finally we secretly begin looking forward to death to bring all of the pain to an end. By the way, these accumulated negative feelings, Michael Singer talks about as well. He calls it as a samskara. I think that's I don't know if that's the Buddhist or the Sanskrit term for it. Pardon my ignorance if you do know what samskara is. It's in Singer's book, but he calls it a samskara, Samskara. It is not thoughts or facts that are painful, but the feelings that accompany them. It's not the facts or the thoughts that are painful. I'm reading that again, but the feelings that accompany them. Thoughts in and of themselves are painless, but not the feelings that underlie them. It is the accumulated pressure of feelings that causes thoughts. One feeling, for instance, can create literally thousands of thoughts over a period of time. Think, for instance, of one painful memory from early life, one terrible regret that has been hidden. Look at all the years and years of thoughts associated with that single event. If we could surrender the underlying painful feeling, all of those thoughts would disappear instantly and we would forget the event. This observation is in accord with scientific research. The Gray-La Violette scientific theory integrates psychology and neurophysiology. Their research demonstrated that feeling tones organize thoughts and memory. That's in Gray-La Violette, 1981. Thoughts are filed in the memory bank according to the various shades of feelings associated with those thoughts. Therefore, when we relinquish or let go of a feeling, we are freeing ourselves from all the associated thoughts. The great value of knowing how to surrender is that any and all feelings can be let go of at any time and at any place in an instant, and it can be done continuously and effortlessly. I keep having trouble with that word, effortlessly. Funny, I'm having a lot of effort that I have to take to say the word effortlessly. What is the surrendered state? It means to be free of negative feelings. I'm not going to cut that out. I'm going to leave this in. What is the surrendered state? It means to be free of negative feelings in a given area so that creativity and spontaneity can manifest without opposition or the interference of inner conflicts. To be free of inner conflict and expectations is to give others in our life the greatest freedom. It allows us to experience the basic nature of the universe, which, it will be discovered, is to manifest the greatest good possible in a situation. This may sound philosophical, but when done, is experientially true. Feelings and mental mechanisms. We have three major ways of handling feelings. 1, suppression. I added the 1. 2, expression. And 3, escape. We will discuss each in turn. 1, suppression and repression. These are the most common ways in which we push feelings down and put them aside. In repression, this happens unconsciously. In suppression, it happens consciously. We don't want to be bothered by feelings, and besides, we don't know what else to do with them. We sort of suffer through them and try to keep functioning as best as we can. The feelings that we select to be suppressed or repressed are in accord with the conscious and unconscious programs that we carry within us from social custom and family training. The pressure of suppressed feelings is later felt as irritability, mood swings, tension in the muscles of the neck and back, headaches, cramps, menstrual disorders, colitis, indigestion, insomnia, hypertension, allergies, and other somatic conditions. When we repress a feeling, it is because there is so much guilt and fear over the feeling that it is not even consciously felt at all. It becomes instantly thrust into the unconscious as soon as it threatens to emerge. The repressed feeling is then handled in a variety of ways to ensure that it stays repressed and out of awareness. Of these mechanisms used by the mind to keep the feeling repressed, denial and projection are perhaps the best known methods, as they tend to go together and reinforce each other. Denial results in major emotional and maturation blocks. It is usually accompanied by the mechanism of projection. There's that word again, projection. Because of guilt and fear, we repress the impulse or feeling, and we deny its presence within us. Instead of feeling it, we project it onto the world and those around us. We experience the feeling as if it belonged to them, quote unquote. They, quote unquote, then become the enemy and the mind searches for and finds justification to reinforce the projection. Blame is placed on people, places, institutions, food, climatic conditions, astrological events, social conditions, fate, God, luck, the devil, foreigners, ethnic groups, political rivals, and other things outside of ourselves. Projection is the main mechanism in use by the world today. How true is that? It accounts for all wars, strife, and civil disorder. Hating the enemy is even encouraged in order to become a good citizen, quote unquote. We maintain our own self-esteem at the expense of others, and eventually this results in social breakdown. The mechanism of projection underlies all attack, violence, aggression, and every form of social destruction. 2. Expression. With this mechanism, the feeling is vented, verbalized, or stated in body language and acted out in endless group demonstrations. The expression of negative feelings allows just enough of the inner pressure to be let out so that the remainder can then be suppressed. This is a very important point to understand, for many people in society today believe that expressing their feelings frees them from their feelings. The facts are to the contrary. The expression of a feeling first tends to propagate that feeling and give it a greater energy. Second, the expression of the feeling merely allows the remainder to be suppressed out of awareness. The balance between suppression and expression varies in each individual depending on early training, current cultural norms and mores, and the media. Expressing oneself is now in vogue as a result of misunderstanding of the work of Sigmund Freud and psychoanalysis. Freud pointed out that suppression was the cause of neurosis, therefore expression was mistakenly thought to be the cure. This misinterpretation became a license for self-indulgence at the cost of others. What Freud actually said in a classical psychoanalysis was that the repressed impulse or feeling was to be neutralized, sublimated, socialized, and channeled into constructive drives of love, work, and creativity. If we dump our negative feeling on others, they experience it as an attack, and they in turn are forced to suppress, express, or escape the feelings. Therefore, the expression of negativity results in the deterioration and destruction of relationships. A far better alternative is to take responsibility for our own feelings and neutralize them. Then only positive feelings remain to be expressed. 3. Escape. Escape is the avoidance of feelings through diversion. This avoidance is the backbone of the entertainment and liquor industries, and also the root of the workaholic. Escapism and avoidance of inner awareness is a socially condoned mechanism. We can avoid our own inner selves and keep our feelings from emerging by an endless variety of pursuits, many of which eventually become addictions as our dependency upon them grows. People are desperate to stay unconscious. We observe how often people flick on the television set, say the internet these days, the minute they enter a room and then walk around in a dreamlike state, constantly being programmed by the data poured into them. People are terrified of facing themselves. They dread even a moment of aloneness. Notice how he says aloneness and not loneliness. Thus, the constant frantic activities, the endless socializing, talking, texting, reading, music playing, working, traveling, sightseeing, shopping, overeating, gambling, movie-going, pill-taking, drug using, and cocktail partying. Many of the foregoing mechanisms of escape are faulty, stressful, and ineffective. Each of them requires increasing amounts of energy in and of itself. Enormous amounts of energy are required to keep down the growing pressure of the suppressed and repressed feelings. There is a progressive loss of awareness and an arrest of growth. There is a loss of creativity, energy, and real interest in others. There is a halting of spiritual growth and eventually the development of physical and emotional illness, disease, aging, and premature death. The projection of these repressed feelings results in the social problems, disorders, and the increase of selfishness and callousness, characteristic of our present society. Most of all, the effect is the inability to truly love and trust another person, which results in emotional isolation and self-hatred. In contrast to the above, what happens instead when we let go of a feeling? The energy behind the feeling is constantly surrendered, and the net effect is decompression. The accumulated pressure begins to decrease as we constantly let go. Everyone knows that when we let go, we immediately feel better. The body's physiology changes. There are detectable improvements in skin color, breathing, pulse, blood pressure, muscle tension, gastrointestinal function, and blood chemistries. In the state of inner freedom, all bodily functions and organs move in the general direction of normalcy and health. There is an immediate increase in muscle power. Vision improves, and our perception of the world and ourselves changes for the better. We feel happier, more loving, and more easygoing. By the way, and this is not to toot my own horn, but I've been told by many people that knew me from before reading this book to after reading this book. And obviously, it's not just reading the book, it's a combination of a lot of things like therapy and other self work. But definitely, they have said to me that they found me to be more easygoing. People who never knew me before said, "Hey, you're pretty easygoing. Were you always like that?" I'm like, "Me, easygoing?" It's hard for me to even believe when they say that. And he talks about in the book, by the way, how a lot of times the way to notice your development is through the comments of others. Not that you need validation. This isn't about validation. It's just about understanding that sometimes it's hard to know that you've done that work, and only through other people noting it for you are you able to recognize, hey, I have done a nice amount of work on myself. Feelings and stress. There is much attention and publicity given to the subject of stress without a real understanding of its essential nature. It is said that we are more stress prone than ever. What is the essential cause of stress? Certainly, it is not the external precipitating factors. They are merely examples of the mechanism we described as projection. It is they, or it, quote unquote, that is thought to be the culprit, when in fact, when what we are feeling is merely the letting out of the inner pressure of repressed emotions. It is these repressed feelings that make us vulnerable to external stress. The real source of stress is actually internal. It is not external, as people would like to believe. The readiness to react with fear, for instance, depends on how much fear is already present within to be triggered by a stimulus. The more fear we have on the inside, the more our perception of the world is changed to a fearful, guarded expectancy. To the fearful person, this world is a terrifying place. To the angry person, this world is a chaos of frustration and vexation. To the guilty person, it is a world of temptation and sin, which they see everywhere. What we are holding inside colors our world. If we let go of guilt, we will see innocence. However, a guilt-ridden person will only see evil. The basic rule is that we focus on what we have repressed. Stress results from the accumulated pressure of our repressed and suppressed feelings. The pressure seeks relief, and so external events only trigger what we have been holding down, both consciously and unconsciously. The energy of our blocked off feelings reemerges through our automatic nervous system and causes pathological changes leading to disease processes. A negative feeling instantly causes a loss of 50% of the body's muscle strength and also narrows our vision both physically and mentally. Stress is our emotional reaction to a precipitating factor or stimulus. Stress is determined by our belief systems and their associated emotional pressures. It is not the external stimulus then that is the cause of the stress, but our degree of reactivity. The more surrendered we are, the less prone we are to stress. The damage caused by stress is merely the result of our own emotions. The effectiveness of letting go and reducing the body's response to stress has been demonstrated in scientific studies, see Chapter 14. Many stress reduction programs offered today often miss the essential point. They try to relieve the after effects of stress rather than remove the cause of the stress itself, or they concentrate on external events. This is like trying to reduce the fever without correcting the infection. For instance, muscle tension is the aftermath of anxiety, fear, anger, and guilt. A course in the techniques of muscle relaxation is going to be a very limited benefit. It would be far more effective instead to remove the source of the underlying tension, which is the repressed and suppressed anger, fear, guilt, or other negative feelings. Life events and emotions. The rationalizing mind prefers to keep the true causes of emotion out of awareness and utilizes the mechanism of projection to do this. Again, projection, he keeps mentioning. It blames events or other people for causing, quote unquote, a feeling and views itself as the helpless, innocent victim of external causes. There's the victimhood again. They made me angry. He got me upset. It scared me. World events are the cause of my anxiety. Actually, it is the exact opposite. The suppressed and repressed feelings seek an outlet and utilize the events as triggers and excuses to vent themselves. We are like pressure cookers ready to release steam when the opportunity arises. Our triggers are set and ready to go off. In psychiatry, this mechanism is called displacement. It is because we are angry that events make us angry. If through constant surrendering we have let go of the pent-up store of anger, it is very difficult and in fact even impossible for anyone or any situation to make us angry. The same therefore goes for all other negative feelings once they have been surrendered. Because of social conditioning in our society, people often even suppress and repress their positive feelings. Suppressed love results in the broken heart of the heart attack. Suppressed love reemerges as excessive adoration of pets and various forms of idolatry. True love is free of fear and characterized by non-attachment. It's a very important term, non-attachment. We'll get more into that as the book continues. Fear of loss energizes undue attachment and possessiveness. For example, the man who is insecure about his girlfriend is very jealous. When the pressure of suppressed and repressed feelings exceeds the individual's tolerance level, The mind will create an event out there, quote unquote, upon which to vent and displace itself. Thus, the person with a lot of repressed grief will unconsciously create sad events in his life. A fearful person precipitates frightening experiences. The angry person becomes surrounded by infuriating circumstances, and the prideful person is constantly being insulted. As Jesus said, "Why do you see the splinter which is in your brother's eye, and do not feel the beam which is in your own eye?" Matthew 7:3. All the great masters point us within. Everything in the universe emits a vibration. The higher the vibration, the more power it has. Emotions also, because they are energy, emit vibrations. These emotional vibrations impact the body's energy fields and reveal effects that can be seen, felt, and measured. Motion pictures using Kirlian photography, such as those done by Dr. Thelma Moss, show rapid fluctuations of the color and size of the energy field with changes of emotion. Krippner, 1974. The energy field has traditionally been called an aura and can be seen by people who have been born with or learned the ability to see vibrations of that frequency. The aura changes color and size with emotions. Muscle testing also demonstrates the energy changes that accompany emotions, as our body's muscles instantly respond to positive and negative stimuli. Thus, our basic emotional states transmit themselves to the universe. The mind has no dimensions or size and is not limited in space. Therefore, the mind transmits its basic state via vibrational energy over an unlimited distance. This means that we routinely and unwittingly affect others by our emotional state and thoughts. Emotional patterns and their associated thought forms, for instance, can be picked up and received consciously by psychics at a great distance. This can be demonstrated experimentally, and the scientific basis for this has been a subject of great interest in advanced quantum physics. Because emotions emit a vibrational energy field, they affect and determine the people who are in our lives. Life events become influenced by our repressed and suppressed emotions on the psychic level. Thus, anger attracts angry thoughts. The basic rule of the psychic universe is that like attracts like. Similarly, love promotes love, so that the person who has let go of a lot of inner negativity is surrounded by loving thoughts, loving events, loving people, and loving pets. This phenomenon explains many scriptural quotations and common sayings that have puzzled the intellect, such as, "The rich gets richer and the poor gets poorer," and "those who have get." As a general rule, therefore, people who are carrying the consciousness of apathy bring poverty circumstances into their lives, and those with a prosperity consciousness bring abundance into their lives. Because all living things are connected on vibrational energy levels, our basic emotional state is picked up and reacted to by all life forms around us. It is well known that animals can instantly read a person's basic emotional state. There are experiments demonstrating that even the growth of bacteria is affected by human emotions, and that plants register measurable reactions to our emotional state. Baxter, 2003. The mechanism of letting go. This is a very important section, if I can add. It's all important, but this talks about actually how letting go works. Letting go involves being aware of a feeling, letting it come up, staying with it, and letting it run its course without wanting to make it different or do anything about it. It means simply to let the feeling be there and to focus on letting out the energy behind it. The first step is to allow yourself to have the feeling without resisting it, venting it, fearing it, condemning it, or moralizing about it. It means to drop judgment and to see that it is just a feeling. The technique is to be with the feeling and surrender all efforts to modify it in any way. Let go of wanting to resist the feeling. It is the resistance that keeps the feeling going. When you give up resisting or trying to modify the feeling, it will shift to the next feeling and be accompanied by a lighter sensation. A feeling that is not resisted will disappear as the energy behind it dissipates. As you begin the process, you will notice that you have fear and guilt over having feelings. There will be resistance to feelings in general. To let feelings come up, it is easier to let go of the reaction to having the feelings in the first place. A fear of fear itself is a prime example of this. Let go of the fear or guilt that you have about the feeling first, and then get into feeling itself. When letting go, ignore all thoughts. Focus on the feeling itself, not on the thoughts. Thoughts are endless and self-reinforcing, and they only breed more thoughts. Thoughts are merely rationalizations of the mind to try and explain the presence of the feeling. The real reason for the feeling is the accumulated pressure behind the feeling that is forcing it to come up in the moment. It's amazing. Michael Singer says the same thing in his book, Living Untethered, which I highly recommend. The thoughts or external events are only an excuse made up by the mind. As you become more familiar with letting go, It will be noticed that all negative feelings are associated with our basic fear related to survival, and that all feelings are merely survival programs that the mind believes are necessary. The letting go technique undoes the programs progressively. Through that process, the underlying motive behind the feelings becomes more and more apparent. To be surrendered means to have no strong emotion about a thing. It's okay if it happens, and it's okay if it doesn't. When we are free, there is a letting go of attachments. There's that word again, attachments. We can enjoy a thing, but we don't need it for our happiness. There is a progressive diminishing of dependence on anything or anyone outside of ourselves. These principles are in accord with the basic teaching of the Buddha to avoid attachment to worldly phenomena, as well as the basic teaching of Jesus Christ to be in the world but not of it. Sometimes we surrender a feeling and we notice that it returns or continues. This is because there is more of it yet to be surrendered. We have stuffed these feelings all of our lives, and there can be a lot of energy pushed down that needs to come up and be acknowledged. Again, see Michael Singer for this concept as well. When surrender occurs, there is an immediate lighter, happier feeling, almost like a high. By continuously letting go, it is possible to stay in that state of freedom. Feelings come and go, and eventually you realize that you are not your feelings, but that the real you is merely witnessing them. Michael Singer refers to that as witness consciousness. You stop identifying with them. The you that is observing and is aware of what is happening always stays the same. As you become more and more aware of the changes with witness within, you begin to identify with that level of consciousness. You become progressively, primarily the witness rather than the experiencer of phenomena. You get closer and closer to the real self and begin to see that you had been duped by feelings all along. You thought that you were the victim of your feelings. Again, there's that idea of victimhood. Now you see that they are not the truth about yourself. They are merely created by the ego, that collector of programs which the mind has mistakenly believed are necessary for survival. The results of letting go are deceptively quick and subtle, but the effects are very powerful. Often we have let go but think that we haven't. I talked about this earlier. It will be our friends who make us aware of the change. One reason for this phenomenon is that when something is truly surrendered, it disappears from consciousness. Now, because we never think of it, we don't realize that it has gone. This is a common phenomenon among people who are growing in consciousness. We are not aware of all the coal that we have shoveled. We are always looking at the shovelful we are handling right now. We don't realize how much the pile has gone down. Often our friends and family are the first ones to notice. That's what I was saying before. To keep track of progress, many people keep a chart of their gains. This helps to overcome the resistance that usually takes the form, "this isn't working," quote unquote. It is common for people who have made enormous gains to claim it just isn't working. We have to remind ourselves sometimes what we were like before we started the process. Resistance to letting go. Letting go of negative feelings is the undoing of the ego, which will be resistant at every turn. This may result in skepticism about the technique, forgetting, quote unquote, to surrender, a sudden upsurge of escapism, or venting feelings by expressing and acting out. The solution is simply to keep on letting go of the feelings that you have about the whole process. Let the resistance be there, but don't resist the resistance. You are free. You don't have to let go. Nobody is forcing you. Look at the fear behind the resistance. What are you afraid of regarding this process? Are you willing to let go of that? Keep letting go of every fear as it arises, and the resistance will resolve. Let's not forget that we are letting go of all the programs that have made us a slave and a victim for a long time. Again, the word victim. These programs have blinded us to the truth of our real identity. The ego is losing ground and will try tricks and bluffs. Once we start letting go, its days are numbered and its power is diminishing. One of its tricks is to go unconscious about the technique itself, for instance, to decide suddenly that the mechanism of surrender isn't working. Things are still the same. It is confusing and too hard to remember and do. This is a sign of real progress. It means that the ego knows we have a knife with which to cut ourselves free and it is losing ground. The ego is not our friend. Like Master Control in Tron 1982, it wants to keep us enslaved by its programs. Letting go is a natural ability. It is not something new or foreign. It is not an esoteric teaching or somebody else's idea or a belief system. We are merely utilizing our own inner nature to get freer and happier. When letting go, it is not helpful to think, quote unquote, about the technique. It's better simply just to do it. Just do it, as the Nike slogan goes. Eventually, you'll be seeing that all thoughts are resistance. They are all images that the mind has made up to prevent us from experiencing what actually is. When we have been letting go for a while and have begun experiencing what is really going on, we will laugh at our thoughts. I can tell you from personal experience, I've done that. I've laughed at my thoughts. And actually, it happens fairly regularly, I might add. Thoughts are fakes, absurd make-believes that obscure the truth. Pursuing thoughts can keep us occupied endlessly. We will discover one day that we are right where we started. Thoughts are like goldfish in a bowl. The real self is like the water. The real self is the space between the thoughts, or more exactly, the field of silent awareness underneath all thoughts. Michael Singer talks about this as well. He talks about a lot of these concepts, a lot of overlap here between these two great authors, not just authors, speakers, etc., educators, I would say, spiritual giants, if you will. We have had the experience of being totally absorbed in what we were doing when we scarcely noticed at the passage of time. The mind was very quiet and we were simply doing what we were doing without resistance or effort. We felt happy, maybe humming to ourselves. We functioned without stress. We were very relaxed, although busy. We suddenly realized that we never needed all those thoughts after all. Thoughts are like bait to a fish. If we bite at them, we get caught. It's best not to bite at the thoughts. We don't need them. Inside of us, but out of awareness, is the truth that I already know everything I need to know. This happens automatically. Paradoxically, one resistance to surrendering is due to the effectiveness of the technique. What happens is that we keep letting go when life is not going too well and we are beset by unpleasant emotions. As we finally surrender our way out of it and all is well, then we stop letting go. This is a mistake because, as good as we may feel, there is usually more to it. Take advantage of the higher states and the momentum of letting go. Keep on going because it will get better and better all the time. Letting go gains a certain momentum. It is easy to keep it going once it starts. The higher we feel, the easier it is to let go. That's a good time to reach down and let go of some things, suppressed and repressed, quote unquote, garbage, that we wouldn't want to tackle if we were in the dumps. There is always a feeling to be let up and surrendered. When we are feeling good, the motions are merely subtler. Sometimes you will feel stuck with a particular feeling. Simply surrender to the feeling of being stuck. Getting the picture here? Just let it be there and don't resist it. If it doesn't disappear, see if you can let go of the feeling in bits and pieces. Another block that may occur is the fear that if we let go of a desire for something, we won't get it. It is often beneficial to look at some commonly held beliefs and let go of them right in the beginning, such as 1. We only deserve things through hard work, struggle, sacrifice, and effort. 2. Suffering is beneficial and good for us. 3. We don't get anything for nothing. 4. Things that are very simple aren't worth much. Letting go of some of these psychological barriers to the technique itself will allow an enjoyment of its effortlessness and ease. And that's the end of the chapter. And I just jotted down some points of summary, some main takeaways and actionable insights from the chapter. So number 1, you are in charge of how you feel and not at the mercy of the world. So no more victimhood. I kept mentioning the word victim that comes up in this chapter a lot. You are not a victim. 2, it's not the thoughts that weigh us down, but rather the feelings that underlie them. 3, by surrendering the feeling, the myriad of accumulated thoughts based on that feeling will disappear. 4, letting go can be done consciously and effortlessly. 5, there are 3 major ways of handling feelings. 1, suppression and repression. Repression means unconsciously being repressed down, and suppression is something that we do to consciously suppress our thoughts and our feelings. 2, expression. That is giving energy to the energy as opposed to suppressing something or repressing something. And this is in opposition of taking responsibility. It gets projected out, it gets projected, we've used that word a lot too, projected outward as blame, for example. And 3, escape. Avoidance of feeling through diversion. So escapism, drug use, addictions, etc. Point 6. Stress results from accumulated pressure of our repressed and suppressed feelings, which is all internally caused. It's our degree of reactivity to the feeling. 7. This reactivity is a projection by the rationalizing mind. It's all his fault, quote unquote. The suppressed mind needs an outlet. 8. Emotions are so powerful that they emit a vibrational energy field and determine the people and events that are in our lives. Point 9. Letting go means to be aware of a feeling, being with it, and letting it run its course. The first step is seeing it for what it is, just a feeling. Don't label it or judge it. 10. Let go of the resistance because that is what keeps something going. 11. To be surrendered means to not have a strong emotion over something. It's okay either way. Non-attachment, as we talked about. It's a diminishing of dependence on anything external. Point 12, you are not your feelings, you are witnessing them. Witness consciousness. 13, common deception is not realizing how surrendered we have become. Often it's friends and family who have to point this out to us because we don't realize just how much improvement we've achieved in our lives. 14, remind yourself what you were like before. 15, ego, which is a collection of programs, will put up resistance and try tricks and bluffs. A common trick is to say it's not working. Let go of that resistance to the resistance. And finally, point 16, don't overthink it. Be like Nike. Just do it. Keep doing it, and it gets easier as you keep doing it. So I hope you found this latest video helpful, informative, insightful. Please, any questions that you may have, feel free to leave that in the comment section below. Any feedback in general. What did you think? What have you experienced based on these teachings? I'm always happy to get your insights and your feedback. And of course, I am once again very grateful for those who have subscribed. If you haven't yet, please take one more moment. I know you've already taken time out of your day to watch or listen to this video, and I really appreciate that. If you take one more moment to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell, it will definitely help you, but also help me to continue producing videos just like this one. And you can forward this to anybody who you think can benefit from this video. So grateful for you. In the next video, we are going to take on chapter 3, which is called The Anatomy of Emotion. Super interesting and again, insightful. The entire book is insightful. So stay tuned for that episode. If you missed the first videos in this series, please go ahead and watch those. That will give you greater context to this entire book. And I look forward to seeing you at the next video in this series on Letting Go, The Pathway of Surrender by David Hawkins. Looking forward to seeing you at the next video. Hey, thanks for watching. I know your time is valuable, and that's one of the many reasons I'm grateful that you watched my video. Check out the next video in this series or in my library. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and the notification bell so that you don't miss a future video. And it will also help me to continue producing videos just like this one. I appreciate it.